That's St. James Farm, and it's gonna rain, but it's Sunday. I thought I'd take you through a little hike, and I don't go that way. I go this way. With the sequester at home idea, I think that takes a lot of getting used to. I already put a video out on trying to avoid the strain between people that haven't lived together for a while, especially if we're talking about college. You have a young adult who is used to having independence, and then, or you have a high schooler that's used to studying in school with friends, and suddenly it's online and super boring at home. So check out the video, but I have four rules that might help in the short run. First is that whoever in the house is there, unless you're grade school or daycare, probably should have eye and ear blocking. So auditory, I think it's always nice to have those earbuds. I got a pair of cheap ones that still work well. I use them in the gym, but sometimes you can use them to listen to ocean or use them as noise canceling, and that would help, especially if you're distracted while you're studying and somebody's watching TV upstairs, or you have a small house where you have to share a lot of the room with other people. Next would be in that also with the eye thing is sometimes people like to study late at night, and I'll get to number 4 in a second. But if you have somebody in the same room where you share a room with somebody and they're kind of late night or doing work late, I think it's fair to have an eye block. So essentially just eye mask that you use at night. And that would help with blocking the ears, whether you use noise canceling or just earplugs, and then covering up the eyes so that the other party can still read if they have to read, or the light from their phone, which they should not be doing, will not be too distracting in the middle of darkness. Remember, if we're going to fight this infection, you really have to maximize on your sleep. Decreased sleep translates to lower immunity. You don't want to be stuck with a lower immunity in case you get exposure to COVID, which we might, statistically speaking. So eye and ear, number 1, should always have that available, because if you wait till the last minute, that might be a little tough to cover up with a pillow, for example. So that's number 1. Number 2 is you gotta clean up the clutter. So obviously your own rooms or the rooms that you've cleared up, clean that stuff. But in the kitchen, where everybody's going to be sharing common ground, somebody should have duty. And I think that on that calendar that I talked about in my last video, I think it's fair to have everybody have their own assignments. It doesn't have to be the same person throughout the whole week. You can take turns, but it'll keep everybody busy. If it's your turn coming up on Wednesday to, I don't know, take care of the stove, clean up the dishes, and put away stuff, that's fair. So in common area where everybody hangs out, say when everybody takes a break, I think it's important for somebody to be assigned, or everybody to do their part as far as keeping the area clean. If it's a large group, and or there's toddlers around or daycare age kids, then you have to have the adults take turns. Number 3 would be, I think it's important when everybody's at home to take advantage of that social gathering, and not everybody's going to be on the same page as far as schedules. Like working from home, you'll have to be intense with meetings. For me, it would be consults. I still have to go to my office for that. And if everybody's going to be at home at the same time, I think it's fair to at least have a regular meetup. Say, guaranteed lunch, guaranteed dinner, everybody meets up. And maybe a movie. Like tonight we're going to watch, I don't know what we're going to watch. There's these things on Amazon that are $20, which is a ripoff. But if I can get everybody to hang out for an hour and a half, I think that's cool. So designated time versus, like, if you were ever studying, I used to study in LaSalle University, and if you go to the library annex, it's quiet when you enter, and it's just cubicles and a darkened hallway, not hallway, but amphitheater, I guess. And the cubicles, sometimes if you get somebody that's bored, you can, that person that's bored will get up and kind of bother other people. That's not fair. So I think it's, if you can have a designated time that everybody intensely powers up their studying habits, and then guarantee that they speed up and finish, kind of recapitulate everything that they've been studying right before break time. And the break time obviously should coordinate with dinner prep and sitting down. So I think if you all guarantee or come up to agreement as far as a meet up twice, maybe 3 times a day, that'd be great. It breaks up the day into hours and blocks. If you have it broken up into hours and blocks, it goes by faster versus just unscheduled 2 weeks. And now we're only going 2 weeks at a time at this point, but I don't think this virus will be done with us in 2 weeks. So number 4 would be sometimes some of us have to take phone calls, and when you take phone calls, you can be loud. So inadvertently, and while everybody else is trying to do their thing, especially late at night, you should really have phone calls either downstairs in the basement, in the garage, outside in the porch, or somewhere where you can just talk loud, I guess, if you have to. So I think that's important when everybody else, just like a library annex, if you take your phone call in the middle of the library, you'll get kicked out of the library. So designated place for loud phone calls, and or there has to be guaranteed quiet time, mandatory quiet time. So my son was up at like 3 in the morning, and I thought, wait, I didn't hear him because I was asleep and I have earplugs on and a mask. But my wife heard him, was like, hey, what are you doing so late at night? Oh, I'm on spring break. Well, no, that doesn't fly. You still have to be careful because, again, if you cut back, even if it is spring break, cut back on your sleep habit, understanding that he'll probably sleep late but he'll wake up later, it's still the schedule, circadian rhythm's off. It still shocks the immunity on the first couple days. Once you get used to it, fine. Immunity should pop back up for a young person, but I wouldn't do that. Plus, it's also interruptive. If you're gaming and you have a set of headphones on, you can't hear how loud you are actually. So, mandatory quiet time, just like the dorms. So my wife was the RA last night, resident, whatever you call it, associate, RA, person in charge of the fraternity or the apartments. And tonight, he's got to go to sleep earlier. So it's going to take some getting used to. He's on break. I'm not. Neither is my wife. So it's important that everybody kind of meets halfway. And if the adults who pay the mortgage lay the rules down, we can arbitrate. But I think that it's a democracy in the house, although my voting power is very great. So this is St. James. Those are the 4 bullet points of how you might be able to survive the shelter at home weeks coming up. I really think we'll all be fine. The news that you turn on, if you watch news in this last 10 days since the 15th, terrible. I mean, you just hear about it's some of it is true, but yellow journalism, it'll make you anxious, and we don't need that right now because that'll make it difficult to fall asleep. And if it's difficult to fall asleep, again, your immunity will be hampered. So we will all survive. There are going to be some people that suffer, but if you think about it, thus far in the United States, there's probably 300,000 that have died already with heart attack. So at least in the last registered study was 2017, and there was about 300 something people that died that year from heart attack. So I calculated that's about 1,000 people a day, more or less. My math is probably terrible, but still, that's, you don't hear about that. And those people over the course of the year did tie up all the ICU beds. So, and that's not just older people, so we have to be careful. One thing at a time, but bottom line is that we have tackled other things. If you are one of my warriors to try to shake up your lifestyle change so you can push back that mountain of disease, this is just a little bump in the mountain, so have no fear. All the lifestyle changes that we have gone through to beat the heart attack will also give you a step up if in fact you do get infected with the virus. I think we'll all be okay. But we've got to live through, it's one thing at a time. Hopefully more test kits come this week. We can see who's effective. We'll see what China and South Korea does with their people as they let out a little bit at a time. And then we'll follow in suit. But hopefully we will do something a little bit different than the rest of the world and come out ahead.